Hello and welcome everyone. This is just a quick apology for the audio issue that was noticeable in the actual stream. When I press go live through OBS, it's supposed to automatically connect to my YouTube channel and then it starts recording. However, because I was only using a single monitor where normally I use a double monitor, I was only monitoring the OBS software, and when I actually went to a open browser for the YouTube, there was an issue that it had not connected, when in fact it had, but I was not aware of it. So when I hit the reconfiguration settings, it reconfigured and I can actually then see the stream, but this then produced a double stream or double audio effect, so you can actually see me in the live stream speaking, and you can hear me speaking, and you can see me carrying out the task, but then about 15 to 20 seconds later you actually hear the audio again of the subject that I just mentioned. So I do apologise for that. It's a issue that I will try to resolve for the next live stream. Obviously there was some settings in YouTube that caused this issue which I've got to sort out, but I hope it didn't distract too much from the actual content that I was creating, and hopefully as I get better and more experienced, the stream will look and become more professional. So I do apologise, but please do enjoy the video, and I would like any feedback. Anybody have any suggestion on how I can probably avoid this problem again, that YouTubers themselves and know how to set up the audio, then please do forward that information on to me. I'm quite happy to to listen and learn, because I am learning. So thank you. Please keep in touch with the channel, subscribe and watch. Hope to see you in the next video. Thanks again. The SNO is a 1TB NVMe SSD. Yeah, so modern SSD. For RAM, I'll be using a Ballistic gaming memory. It's 16GB kit, which is 2 sticks of 8. Yeah, and also because my client requires, he has a lot of films on DVD and the likes. I'll be putting a DVD drive on it, and also I'll be putting a Wi-Fi card on it. This Wi-Fi comes with Bluetooth built in as well, but obviously I'll be doing that last. So without further ado, let's get going. So what I'm actually going to do now, I'll just put these aside. I'm just going to put these aside for you. And we're going to get the board prepped. So let's open up the board. Now you all remember this board. Yeah. You all remember this board. It's the board that I did the RMA on. The one that I got from Amazon, and it had bent pins. Well, I had 2 bent pins. It's the Aero Shield. We don't need that for the moment. SATA cables we won't be using. Oh, probably will be for the DVD drive. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. That I won't be using. All the paperwork. So we've got our IO shield there. I'll leave that there for the second. Right, so we'll take our board out. I am working on an anti-static mat. This is my anti-static mat, you all remember. Out there. So just get rid of that. Put that in there, close that down, and I'm going to be working on the box itself for the moment. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is actually put my CPU in. So I'm going to put the Intel Power in. It comes with its own. This does come with its own cooler, and the cooler's quite adequate for that. Okay, so there we go. Just move over a bit so you can see a bit more. Right. So let's get this processor in. I'll just get in a bit closer. Just get rid of that. Right in there. Put that down, and I'm going to move it on the box itself. Get it out of the way. Right. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually put my CPU in. So it comes with its own. This does come with its I'm just looking for the narrow end. So right, okay. So you can see this is the big end with a big tape on it. We're going to cut this end with the small bit of tape on it. Just remove a bit so you can see a bit more. Right. So let's get this processor in. Get a bit closer. Man, that's tough tape. And here we have our cooler and our processor. There's a cooler, there's a processor, some documentation, go faster stripe. Don't need that. So you can see this again with a big tape on it. We're going to cut this end with this. And I'll just see if there's any comments. Right. So let's open up this socket. Let's get the processor out first. Without further ado, hopefully no more interruptions. Just going to flip over to the. Processor out. Right. So let's put the socket. Yes. Processor out first. What we're going to do. Hopefully no more interruptions. And what we want to see here now. Open up that way. There we go. That's the pin. So I'm now going to line up the gold triangle. I'm going to line up the gold triangle. I'm flicking between two. Right, there we go. I'm lining up the gold triangle which is there. And there's a triangle on the board here. Let me just put that down there. There's a triangle on the board just here. What do you want to see here now? Here, right? So those two triangles are going to line up together. So I'm just going to line it up now. And insert that. Now we're going to line up there's also some notches. I'm going to line up the gold triangle. There you go. That's one CPU in. Remember, under there. Save this. Now we're putting this in your box. There's a triangle on the board. I know you are. We're putting this in your box. Do not throw this away, because if anything goes wrong with this board while it's still under warranty and I have to send it back, this has to be replaced on the board. It's important, because all the pins are inside the socket on this board. That's why it's called an 1151. It's called LGA. Look there. It says LGA 1151, and what that means is that it's a land grid array and there's 1151 pins in that socket. Yeah, so look after it. Okay, next I'm going to put, there's only two memory slots on this. So I'm going to put this. This has to be replaced on the board. It's important because all the pins are inside the socket on this board. That's why it's from 1151. So let's get that open again. There. It says LGA 1151. And what that means is it's a land grid array and there's 1151 pins in that socket. Okay, next. So we've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, 2 sticks of 8. We line this up. What we do, that notch, make sure it lines up with the notch on the board. So what you do, you just offer it up to the board first and make sure, see if it sits in place. If it's in place, that's great. If it lines up, it's correct. If it doesn't, you turn your RAM around. You push it till here, click either side. There you go, that's one stick in. That's 8 gigabytes. And usually if you 16 gigabytes of RAM, put your 2 sticks of 8. Put your sticks in the same way, it should fit. Line this up, what we do, that notch. Click again. And there you go, that's 16 gigabyte of RAM. So far we've installed 16 gigabyte RAM, our processor. There's nothing else really on this board now to install as such. Oh yes, we can put on our storage. Tell a lie. So keep that. That'll go in the box. That'll go in the box for the client. The Cooler will go on that. I'm not ready to put the cooler on yet. We don't need a thing, but I'll give that to the client anyway. Click again. There you go. That's 16 GB RAM. So far we've installed 16 GB RAM processor. Just clean as it goes, right? So we're now going to put our storage in. So 1 terabyte. Oh yes. Put on our storage. Of storage. Here we go. Yes, that's replacement for hard drives. So that's 1 terabyte, and that's what we call an M.2 NVMe drive. If you want to know the difference, it's an NVMe, and you've got the SATA drive, which looks exactly the same, but it's got 2 notches in it, one either side, one slightly larger than the other. But this is an NVMe, which is the faster of the two. Yeah, so we're going to insert that. Before I do that, I need to just. It's going to place that into the NVMe slot here. This is where it goes in, and it connects here. So just remove this screw, because that's what we're going to use to secure the drive down. Okay. So. Now you don't bend the drive to get the thing out. So we're going to insert that. Before I do that, you don't bend the drive. You bend the clamshell. NVMe slot here. This is where it goes in, and it connects here. So just remove this screw, because this is what we're going to use to secure the drive down. You line the drive up. Line the drive up in its housing. Now you don't bend the drive, and you just push it back until the gold disappear. The gold fingers disappear. Push down, and you don't need to screw this screw down super tight, just till it goes snug, because all it's doing is just holding the drive down. So that's now your storage in. So that's now the board prepared. So now we've got our processor, our RAM, and our storage. And this makes it so quick because there's no cables. There's no cables as such to run, not like the old-fashioned SATA drives. It's running straight from the CPU lanes. Okay, so that's out of the way. So that's it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep the case. I'm going to put this in the case first. So let's get our case. Let's just move this out of the way a second. So now power supply. Just move that out of the way a second. Case, the CIT case, here we come. CIT case. I'm going to prep the case. Wait a second. And I'm now going to open this up. In fact, I'll take both side panels off here, because okay. Next thing now we need our I/O shield. One I/O shield. With the I/O shield, it's important that you note that the audio ports actually go down towards the bottom of the case. Audio ports actually go down towards the bottom of the case. There we go. You can hear it going in. Now we're going to install our motherboard. Let me just take some of these cables out the back so they don't get trapped behind the motherboard. Here it going in. The thing is, this case is so flimsy.
Now we're going to install our motherboard. Let me just take some of these cables out the back so they don't get trapped. So I'm just getting the motherboard, ensuring that I don't get any grounding straps trapped. Now this is a bit finicky because this, there we go. This I/O shield is not grounding straps trapped. Let me just check all the ports. Nothing in the HDMI port. Nothing in the Ethernet port. Okay, we seem to have success there. So let me just start securing this. Let me just get a couple of screws in, secure this. Let me see if I can. Right, it's not. I know it's not the best of angles. What I really need is a overhead camera so you can see down into what I'm doing. But I'll show you what I was checking and the things to watch out for when you put your board in, because you can put your board in, then secure it down, and then finally you've got to take it all back out. A couple of screws in. Now I'm not screwed none of these screws super tight. All I've done is just put them in and got them started. They're all still loose. You can actually turn them by hand and unscrew them. What I really need is a overhead camera so you can see down into what I'm doing. This is so I can still manipulate the board, because obviously it's always checking. They don't always line up when you put your board in, because you put your board in, then secure it down, and then finally you've got to take it all back out. Now I'm not screwed none of these screws super tight. All I've done is just put them in and got them started. They're all still loose. You can actually turn them by hand and unscrew them. There we go. So now, before I tighten them all down, I'll show you what I was doing, what I meant with these I/O shields. When you put your board in, it's important that you check that none of these grounding straps slip into your port, especially when it comes to like your HDMI port and your Ethernet port, because if you foul it and then you try to put a cable in, you won't, and you can actually short it out. You can actually short it out, because don't forget, some of these pins inside here carry current, especially for HDMI, because that carries a current. Ethernet, that carries a current. I mean, in fact, all of them carry a current. What I'm saying is, when you foul them, that's a problem we can have. And depending if it's the high rail, you can actually not only just blow your board, but if it shoots right through the board, it can kill your processor. It can damage your memory. You know, you can just actually toast everything. So you could find yourself with a very expensive repair, i.e., buying the whole total parts again to rebuild. Yeah. So it's important that you always check your ports. So you, when putting your board in, especially when you've got these I/O shields that you've got to put in yourself, take your time, get it right, get it in once, get it in right. Yeah. It's far better than having, because if you get foul any of these, you've got to take it all out. There's no way around it. You've got to take it all out. So take your time, do it once, do it right. Now I'm going to do now, I'll go around and tighten all these down, because I've now got them all my screws in. They're all in, so I'm now going to tighten the board down now, secure the board. Again, you don't tighten it down that you start even crunching the board, because there's traces in between the boards, and you can actually damage the board, kill the board again, cause a short. So what you do, you just tighten it down, and when it gets tight, one little quarter turn just to snug it up. Because the board's not going anywhere. There's no vibration that's going to work these loose. So you don't need to crank down on them. It's not it's not like a car part, your suspension weight that needs to be super tight. This is not. This is electronic. So all you just need to do is 1, 2, 3, 4. All you just need to do is just snug them. As long as you snug them, don't crank them down. Don't start hearing any crunches on the board, because if you do, then you've started to cause trouble. Okay, so now we've got our board in. So our board's in. We've got our processor, memory. I'm not putting the thermal compound on yet, and I'm not putting the fan on yet because I'm not ready for that. I need to work around. So now I'm going to start doing. Before I put my power supply in, I'm going to start running some of these front panels connectors on, get them on. As you can see, there's not a lot of cable management space around the back of this case. There is a bit, a few here for. Okay, so now we've got a few here for. So our board's in. Tying cables down as such. But you ain't going to do no massive cable management around here. Right, there you go. Put it behind. Right, and that'll fit better. Okay, so now I can put this back. So what I've just done here, for ease of cable, because I don't want no horrible cable running across the front of the board. Well, as minimum as I can. Can't help it with the power supply once it goes in. But I can tie those up. What I've just done is actually, although I've ran the audio cable back round the back of the case, it ran around here before, but it was too tight. It wouldn't reach. It was pulling, and it would, tension on the wire. Too much tension for my liking. There was not, if it just had a little bit of slack with no tension on the wire, that'd have been great. But it wasn't. It was too much tension. So what I've actually done is just took the 2 screws out of here off this motherboard and just lifted that corner slightly, so it's actually now rammed slightly behind the motherboard. But this is the only one that's going there. All the rest will reach. It's because it's the audio, and because it's always in this corner, it's the hardest. And the thing is, the plug can only go in one way because it's got a blank spot. And unfortunately, that blank spot is right this end, which is what's causing the tension on the cable. But now we don't have that tension. It's clear. So now you see I've got plenty of slack now, which means I can always take it back slightly out. The only thing is I'm just trying to position it. It's actually now rammed slightly behind the motherboard. This is the only one that's going there. There we go. All the rest will reach. It's because it's the audio, and because it's always in this corner, it's the hardest. And the thing is, the plug can only go in one way because it's got a blank spot. Unfortunately, that blank spot is that's the audio cable in. Right. So let's get these front panels connected up now. If you was working in this case, you see what the problem is. Because once it becomes crowded, so I can come through here again, and now these. And I've got the space. I get to them now because these are the more finicky switches to put on. Easy, but it's still finicky. The only other main connectors now is on the HDD activity, and right. So what have we got here now? CPU, HDD LED, 24-pin power. Which is bottom right, so HDD LED, down, bottom, and then next to that should be the reset. That's the power switch. Reset comes through, and then there, yeah, reset next to that. And then above that should be the power switch, and then we've got the power LED. So now we've got that's the power switch, so this should be the power LED. Yeah, so I'll just pull this in through. Power LED, plus and minus, so they go above. They go there and there. Now you can you see now? They go there and there. Now you can already see now. These are the finicky bits. In a much bigger case, wouldn't be a problem. But now we've actually got it out of the way, and there's the power switch. And what I'm looking for there's a little triangle on this pin, which is the plus. Don't really matter because it's just a switch, but I've got OCD, so I like things correct. So basically, you just got your 4 blocks. Your floor blocks of wires there. Yeah, just to yeah, just keep it out of the way, just keep it neat. Just keep it neat. I'm just going to flick over to see what the live stream looks like. Yeah. There's a delay of the live stream. But we're all good. We're all good. Okay. That's a bit of cable management done. A little bit. Keep it going along. Right, there we go. Just take the pigtails off. Right, okay. Next, what do we want now? Oh, that's for the DV drive, which is already up there. So now I'm going to put our power supply in. Yes, we're going to have something to power it up with. But just before that, I'm going to check, make sure that there's no problem with the power supply. There we go. There we go. It's just the alignment of them is a bit of a pain. So what I'm checking. I'm just checking that. I'm just checking for the way the these have the keyed only goes a special way. So because it's dark in there, I couldn't see which way this is keyed. So I don't want to put it in the wrong way. Because there we go. Now we'll put our. Make sure that's in the off position. Put that on. And what we're going to look for, I want you to look for, we're going to read out. I'm just checking for the way. There we go. So we've got, excellent. We've got our, let me see, if I turn this lamp off, will you be able to see it? Hello? Right, this is, you can see the 12 volt here, the 5 volts, and the 12.2 volts. Just 1 second. There we go. So we've got, excellent. We've got our, let me see, if I turn this lamp off, will you be able to see it? So there we go. So that is absolutely in shape. Let's see if I can. See the 12 volt here, 5 volts. I don't know if you can see this. 12.2 volts. But everything is reading as it should be. Yeah. So I've got my 12 point, my 3.3 from my SATA. So everything is okie dokie. So there's nothing wrong with this power supply. It's absolutely spot on. I'm just sorry the camera can't pick it up as good as I'd like it to. So there we go. So that is. Yeah, it's too much reflection because of the colour of the screen and that. But trust me, it's on. I don't know if you can see this. But everything is reading as it should. There you go. It's now faded off. Yeah. So we've got the 12.3.3 from the SATA. So everything is okie dokie. So there's nothing wrong with this power supply. It's absolutely spot on. Okay. I'm just sorry the camera can't pick it up. So as good as I'd like it to. Now I'm absolutely spiffing with my power supply. And this is what I use for testing power supplies now. Okay. Alright, you can't see. I'm just securing. Sorry guys, let me pull this back up. I'm just now securing in the power supply. See, power supply is in. I'm now just securing it. Sorry about that. Got carried away. If you wonder why I'm taking that screw out, it's because it's too long. There's certain screws for certain. So, alright, you can't see. I'm just securing. Sorry guys, let me pull this back up. I'm just now securing in the power supply. See, power supply is in. I'm now just securing it. Sorry about that. Got carried away. There you go. Wind around the screws. There we go. You wonder why I'm taking that screw out. So now we're there. So now you can see we're more or less there. Okay, so our power supply's in, our motherboard's in, the motherboard's been prepped and put in. Obviously we have to do a bit of management with all this. I have to that'll be down the front there somewhere, but we need that. We need 2, 4, 6, 8. We need the 8-pin. We need the 8-pin. Now that's a PCIe. So that's for like graphic card if you have any. If you're going to have one, but this has got built-in graphics. This processor, so we don't need that. And there's my CPU. So these are the 2 cables that I need. So I now need to, as I say, because of the lack of space. Because of the lack of space, that's why I do me sort of like do me cable management. I wouldn't normally do cable management as I'm going along. I'd like leave that. PCIe. I'd like leave that. This has got built-in graphics. This processor, so you don't need to last. So I'm just untangling my cables, put them in such a way. I've got them. I need them too, and then I need one SATA for the. One SATA for the DVD. So I'm just untangling cables. Right, so I want to get the nearest SATA on. The reason for that is so that it makes my cable management a lot easier. The DVD. That's not. Surely, it is, you know. Well, that's a new one on me. That is a new one on me. No, it's not. It's that one. Okay, that's better. That's what I say. Had me a bit perplexed there. Right, okay. So I've got, the thing is, I've got a combination of Molex and what's it? Well, Molex. I don't know why they bother putting Molex on these anymore, because the standard is no longer. The standard is not really any longer required. Right, so just to manipulate this, I might just have to. Yes, this end great. The thing is, I've got a combination of Molex and Molex. I don't know why I bother putting Molex on these anymore, because the standard is no longer just having to take that off so I can see what I'm actually doing. Okay. And now we need to tie those up. Let me stand this up. Now I'm going to have to struggle a bit in with the, especially graphic wise. Once your graphic card kicks in, it will require more power from your power supply. So then you sort of like think of maybe stepping up your power supply, you know, maybe to a 700-800 watt type power supply. It's just to give yourself overhead. This is more than sufficient for what my client needs. In fact, the system I've got, the power supply I've got my streamer is an EVGA, but it's only a 550. Yeah, this is a 600. The one that I've got in here is a 550. So there, that will show, but that'll do for what I want. For now. So then you sort of like think of maybe stepping up your power supply maybe to a 700-800 watt. I mean, if I was to get something like a 30 series graphic card, that power supply would have to be changed out. You know, to something no less than maybe 1,000 watt, 900 a minimum, 1,000 above. There's a lot to be said. Your power supply is actually the heart of your machine, because a faulty power supply where current's not flowing right, the right current flow is not reaching the actual connectors, can cause problem within the system. So I've got 3 bundles here at the moment, and just basically I am just working out where these are going to go. And now I'm going to swivel around to the back. You're probably not going to be able to see a lot because I've only got a little narrow space here, which I'm going to work on. A faulty power supply where it's not going right. You see, thank the Lord we don't have any cables to run for. We don't have no cables for things like, you know, the hard drive. Yeah? And we used to have a hard drive cable because these are M.2, that's plugged straight to the board. You don't have any of that issue anymore. Now I'm going to swivel around.
I want my other side cutter.
Cutter, better one. Because I don't want any accidents with wires. That's that. That's that. We've got to cut off all these pigtails. We don't want to foul on anything. Things like, you know, the hard drive. We used to have a hard drive cable because these are M.2s, straight to the board. We don't have any of that issue anymore. So, cable management, we're not far off getting things ready for posting, for booting up, and then getting Windows installed and stuff. Now you see, if this was a fully modular cable, you wouldn't have this issue because you just take your cables out that's not required out of the power supply. You can leave them in the box, and then when you want them, you know, you just go and get them and connect them up as and when you need. As I say, everything has its pros and cons. The thing with that, if the box gets thrown out inadvertently, you lost all the cables for this, and you can't just fit any cable. You can't just go, I'll just get any cable and stick it in. It doesn't work that way because these power supplies are made with the cables for the pinouts. Because although this is VGA, this is a 600 watt. I couldn't take, if this was a modular, fully modular, like that one is, I couldn't take that cable off there and say plug it into there, because although they're the same make, the pin out might be in slightly different places, i.e. the 5 pin and the 12 pin might be in different places. So when you actually plug it in, you could actually, again, fry your board, cause a problem. So it's not as simple as just getting another cable and plugging it in. You would have to go back to the manufacturers and actually get any, given the model your power supply and the manufacturing date, because as everything develops, from time to time they might change things around, even though it might be the same model. You can get another 600 watt model EVGA 8035, but the actual pinouts for your ground powers, for your live power, for your positive powers, could be in actually different places. The pin could have changed, could be over 1, could be over 2, you know, from position where it was. So it's not just as simple as that. So there's a lot to take into consideration, and that's what people overlook. I mean, you will find some, especially if you're lucky enough to get maybe say a few power supply that are in the same batch, then maybe your cables will be okay to use, but you're not always guaranteed. So there's pros and cons to them all, but I'd probably say if you're going to get a power supply, get a semi-modular, because no matter what, you're going to need the CPU power cable, and you're also going to need your 24-pin power cable. Those you can't get away. You definitely need those, and then the rest of the cables you just attach as need be. So if you ain't got no hard drives or SATA drives as such, you don't need to stick your SATA cables in, because obviously if you're running off the lanes off the board, like NVMe drive, your storage here, this is your hard drive, if you're running that off the board, then that there, you're running out of the board, then there's no cables, it's plugged straight in, so you don't need those cables. You see all these cables now, I would basically would have disconnected. So now you see the cable management's coming good now. So what I'm going to do with this cable management is actually I'm going to secure it up onto this. I'm going to put these cables up into here. So now we've got EPS power, 8-pin, and you know what this is for? This is for your up into board. It's 8-pin, so it goes up into here. So now you see the cable management's coming good now. So what I'm going to do with this cable management is actually I'm going to secure it up onto this. I'm going to put these cables up into here. Now here's one. EPS power, 8-pin. 8-pin this one, and the side by side. Here we go. There's 2, and they're both. Check. Yeah, they're both clicked into. Yeah, they're both clicked in. So that's the EPS. Now with that, it's a bit of grief. So I'm going to have to run that up there, and then again I'll find a way of securing it up there. So this is why I tied some of these up in the separate bundles, because issues like this will arise, and that's why I do it, because the case limitation will determine actually how you best proceed. As you'll find out for yourself if you ever do this, that it's not always. On the more modern cases, basically work how you want, because you've got room and all the rest of it. These cases are an older standard, so you have got some issues with cabling. So now you best proceed. So I'm going to do a bit of cheating here. So slightly taller. Slightly, so I've got two sets of ties here. One's slightly longer than the other because inside PCs you're going to need them for different situations. So now I need to be ambidextrous. So now I need to feed that in there. Yes. Round that there. And then I've got two sets of ties here. One's slightly longer than the other because inside PCs. But I'm trying to be as smart as. I'm smart myself. There we go. Right, okay. Swivel that round a second. And what I'm doing is. Right. I'll just get that to hold them a second, just because I want to see. Yeah, that's looking okay. So set to 0, so that goes there. Okay. In fact, I won't connect this. I won't connect the DVD yet. Not until we get things up and running. So to 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So to 0. Yeah, you notice that I do certain things and I keep changing my mind. You've got to do this. You've got to adapt as you go along, because in fact you might start off with an idea just at the time, but then when you look at it and think that obviously something comes through your mind saying no, don't do that yet because there's this and this to do yet. Now look at that already for cable management. It's getting good. See, and I'm only doing temporary ties. Do certain things and I keep changing my mind. You've got to do this. You've got to adapt as you go along because. So I'll take this in a bit more now. You might start off with an idea. Time, but then when you look at it and think that also something comes to your mind saying no, don't do that yet because this isn't it. This is true yet. That way the mind is getting good. See, I'm only doing temporary ties. So take this in a bit more now. Like I said, cable management is not something I actually do. I do that at the end, but this case dictates otherwise. So I'm having to adapt because I want all these cables tied up here. Sort of like out of the way. Now they're not really going to be seen because, to be quite honest with you, this this system is basically going to be, well, I say basically going to be staying the way it is. The way the client uses the system, I want, you know, it's suffice what she wants, but it's got a bit of expandability. Should the need arise, there's a bit of expandability, meaning that we can add things. Obviously, need me to come around and cable manage it or whatever, but it's basically going to be, well, the cables are there. It's basically going to be staying the way it is. The way the client uses the system, you know, it's suffice what you want, but it's got a bit of expandability. So there is expandability in this system, although there's a little bit of expandability. Meaning that although the standards are changing that rapid, I mean now we're on. This is a Gen 9 system. We're actually now on Gen 11 and 12 in combination. It's more Gen 12. Myself personally, for what it's worth, I'd give Gen 11 a miss and go straight to Gen 12. But each to their own. I mean, it depends what you had at the time. You see, it depends on the circumstances. Everybody's circumstances is different. So I'm just saying, on a personal level, that's me, but I'm not saying that's you. You know, you've all got to make your own. You know, you got to do everything that suits, that will fit your needs, depending how quick you need it, what the emergency is. I suppose if you're a business or whatever, you know, your circumstances are going to be totally different from somebody who can sit at home and wait. So there's always pros and cons to everything. There's nothing 100% one way. You know, my circumstances, my needs, and my expectations are different from other people's. You know, that will fit your needs. Well, one hat doesn't fit all. That's what I'm trying to say. There's always cable ties are cheap to buy, so use them. I've got them, I use them. They'll make, as I say, the reason why I'm keeping all these cables sort of like tighten out the way is one, I don't need all of them, but I don't want them dangling down, falling any fans or anything, but also because I want to give this system as much airflow as possible. I am going to put an exhaust fan on the back. It doesn't have an exhaust fan. The thing is, I've got no PWM fans, it's only a 3-pin fan that I've got. Right, so now it's only a 3-pin fan that I've got. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. In fact, I don't think it's going to fit, it's too big. I am going to put an exhaust fan. It's too big. It's a 140, what 120? Yeah, it's a 140 and 120. I've not got a 120, I don't think. It's only 3-pin fan. It's unfortunate.
I'm just looking to see if I've got 120 fan.
Right. That's too big. I think I'm going to have to order a 120 fan. I don't think I've not got a 120 fan. That's a 140. It's too big for that case because that's a micro ATX case. Sorry. Nope, sorry, I don't have a 120 fan. I'm going to have to order one and fit it at a later date. Maybe. I'd like to put a fan in there. Should be alright, but I don't have a 120 fan. sorry, I don't have a 120 fan. No, I don't have a 120 fan. Or the one that fits it at a later date.
Won't be one in there, ain't it?
Alright. You know what? I'm going to order a 120 fan. But in the meantime, we can carry on because it's only a fan. There we go. We're in. We're in. We are in. We are in. So I might have a. I just thought I might have a fan up in the loft actually. In one of the other cases that I can take out. That's probably got a front and back fan because it only needs a back fan. It's just the heat that pulls. When the processor with its own fan will pull the heat off, it goes up inside there. The back fan to pull it out will be fine. But anyway, that's the gist. So I'll do that after. Now we're going to put on our cooler. That's why I shout because it's on fan. Now I'm going to apply some thermal paste on my CPU. Now we're going to put on our cooler. So I'm going to apply some thermal paste. On my CPU. I'm going to apply some thermal paste on my CPU. So I'm going to apply some thermal paste. There we go. So I'm spreading it all over the IHS, which is the internal heat spreader, and simply because these newer chip, they have a lot of dyes and things underneath the IHS that needs to, you know, to be cooled. Unlike the old days of the old FX processor and the likes, you could get away with. So I'm spreading it all over the IHS, which is the internal heat spreader, and simply because these newer chip, they have a lot of dyes and things underneath the IHS that needs to, you know, to be cooled. Unlike the old days of the old. There we go. There we go. Now I'm just gonna, didn't want to, but I'm gonna have to, just because the way the fan goes. There we go. I'm not a great fan of these. I'm not a great fan of the way they wire this up. If I'm being honest. supposed to look, but it just doesn't give enough cord. Still don't like it, but it's the best option. It's a safety option. I might come back to a solution when I put that rear case fan in. Okay, that's that. We're now actually ready for booting up. Actually ready for booting up. Still don't mind, it's the best option. It's the safer option. Unfortunately, I might come back to where's that come across there? Right, unfortunately now, so it's come up. Okay. I'm going to have to. We're now actually ready for booting up. Okay, I'm gonna stop here for a while. I'll probably come back later on to finish this off. It's just that something's come up and it needs my attention. Yeah, so we're currently 45%. We're currently 45%. I'll be installing the Windows 10 cumulative updates for the 20H2. Now I've just checked my YouTube stream, the YouTube studio, and I've noticed that it's been a delay. Even though I've been streaming through OBS, it's took quite a while to come through to you. So you're not actually. So you've missed nearly 40 minutes of this stream. So you missed me setting this up, installing Windows, which I'm in the process of now, but I'm getting all the updates. 20H2. Right, there we go. It's installed, now it's just pending a restart. So let me go ahead and restart that. Now we're back in the Windows desktop. We'll go through this process again, and it says you're up to date, but what we'll do, we'll check for updates again. Now you see how quick the updates basically have taken, simply because my installation media is fairly new. So all I had was a couple of days of updates to install. A couple more here, which is basically for Windows Defender antivirus malware. So it's 4.18.201.10. And there we go, that's all the updates done. Now what we've got to do is to install our Wi-Fi card. Now this is going to be fun, so I'm going to power off the system, so just by pressing, there you go, look how quick that was. Right? Look how rapid that was. Now I'm going to turn off the power at the power supply. Okay. Now got to decide which slot I want it in. So let me get you closer. So which one am I using? Get a bit of light on the subject of the other camera. Okay, so let's get you back on this one. There you go, got a bit of light. So this is what I'm installing now. This is what I'm going to place in now. This is the Wi-Fi adapter card. There's the antennas. That so we can go the USB ports of Bluetooth. And I don't think I've got a spare USB port on here ever. TPM. Yeah, I've got a USB on there. USB 3.0. Okay. Low profile bracket. So if you're using like something like an ITX form factor case, low profile. There's low profile bracket. The bracket on this one will suffice. Here it is itself. Wi-Fi. So that bit will plug into that, and that plugs into a USB on the thing, and then your two aerial connects into the back. Now what I'll do is I'll put this card in, but I won't actually connect up these aerial. I'll give it to the customer, or I'll test them out, but I'll give it to the customer to actually put on myself. So now I'm going to take out a PCI slot and insert this bracket. Now I'm going to try and get a bit closer. Let me just check. Oh yeah, there's a stream there now. Let me just check. Me YouTube stream. It's on, but I do apologise for those of you joining on YouTube. When you're joining the stream, over 50 minutes had gone on the stream. For some unknown reason, it said gone live. It said it'd gone live. It went live on OBS. It said it had gone live on YouTube, but then when I checked on the other screen, because normally I would check on that. Normally I'd have that screen monitoring the YouTube, and this stream is my OBS, as you can see here. That'd be monitoring YouTube, but I'm using that for this at the moment, simply because I didn't want to get an old monitor out from across the room, which only had VGA on it, and I didn't want to mess about, so it was just as easy to use that monitor. But when I actually flicked over onto the YouTube tab, the live stream tab, it was still showing the startup screen. It hadn't gone live, but now it's live. So I do apologise for those of you that have missed. YouTube's really giving me a lot of grief lately. But anyway, that aside, we're going now. So this is the second. If you're not aware of it, this is the second part of that PC that I started before. This is that upgrade to that HP. I've done it, but I had to pause the stream because something cropped up that needed my immediate attention. I wish I could find my. Was it as easy? Right, I'm just working out which slot I'm going to put it in, and I think that one. We've actually got a graphics card, haven't we? Right. Okay. Wrong, that was a screw. Don't want the screw dropping. Right, so in goes my card. I need to connect this wire in here first simply because I'm going to be using one of the USB ports up there. That's audio, front USB. No, it's not even going to be able to use that. Because I don't have another USB. It's got two missing pins in it. No, it's not that. Ooh, so I've only got one USB. That's a TPM. Don't have another. You got USB 2 or 3, but it's not got another USB on there. Okay, so. To get the Bluetooth on this, but we can obviously use the Wi-Fi. There we go, Wi-Fi in. Scumbag balls are equal, aren't it? Okay, Wi-Fi is on. This can save for another board. Okay, now I'm going to put the. I'm actually going to put the antennas on for now, because I want to test it, and then what I'm going to do is put the power back on and power this sucker back up. See what it detects or don't detect. Comes here. It's really there. So let's go in the Device Manager. Now you see that I've actually got my audio on. What I'm looking for here is there we go. Wi-Fi is on. So if I disconnect this Wi-Fi, so the Wi-Fi works. Okay. The Wi-Fi works. So there you go, there's Wi-Fi. So if I go out onto the net. So right, okay. Sorry, I've drifted off slightly there. Do apologise. What I'm doing now, I've just set up the Wi-Fi adapter, put it in, so I've just checked it, Wi-Fi is connected. I'm just enabling some safety protocols. Like I say, because you can't see the screen anyway, it's too bright, it's glaring into the camera. So that's what I'm actually doing, I'm just setting up some safety protocols. Anything else I'll leave for the customer to decide what they want to put on. It's totally up to them. I can't customize this for them. I can't customize it too much yet anyway, because I've got to activate Windows, but I say I won't be doing that online. Right, okay, so I've just now took my Wi-Fi connections out. So this belongs to the customers that needs to put that, screw those onto. I'm not going to transport it with the antennas in. Wow, this thing is quiet. This thing is so quiet. This customer's going to be so happy with this. Or at least I hope they are. They should be. It is so quiet, so quick. I'm just sorry I couldn't find my timers guy. I wanted to put the timer up on it and show you how quick it booted up and that. So that's it. So the Wi-Fi adapter's in, systems all go. So what I'm going to do now is clear that. I'm going to do one last. Oh no, I'm not finished yet. I need to take out my boot media. Then I also need to run my optimizer on it. to run my optimizer disk on it, and optimize a few things. It should be with is an optimizer, I think. Yep. Optimizer. So I'll clip this into the front USB. And that's good because now we see that the front USBs actually work as well as the rear ones. The rear ones are the faster USBs, they're the 2.0. And now it's going to optimize the system for me. It's going to turn off a lot of all the spyware stuff that Microsoft has running in the background that you don't see. So restart now, yes, restarting. You actually want to see my computer icon like the old Windows 7 or the Windows XP icon where you see a my computer icon at the top. And basically it lays it out into a format that you're familiar with before. There you see this PC. Yeah. Home there, and then you get that, see? This is so I'm going to rename this drive, and it's called there you go. It's in a 1 terabyte. That's the drive. I'll name it that so you know straight away, so you know it's an 1 terabyte. Okay. That's the system basically completed. So all I've got, I have ordered a fan, let you know, I have ordered a fan at the back. It's awfully quite cool, but because I've got the adapter card though that produces no heat whatsoever, I'd just like to have an exhaust fan, because the CPU, although it's quite cool at the moment, there's nothing there. If you do so like any kind of stressful work and the CPU cranks up, that it will generate heat. This is quite capable of coping with the heat, but what it's doing is just removing the heat from the CPU. We actually want that heat out the case, you know, exiting the case by a rear fan here. So I'm going to put a rear fan. We don't need a front fan because we haven't got a graphics card, and we don't want to add any more noise and any more power consumption. The fan that I've got is a PWM fan, so it's not just a 3-pin fan. It is a PWM fan, and we have got a PWM fan case connector up there, so I'll be using that. When that comes, I'll be dropping that in. So for all intents and purposes, this system's now ready. The installation was a bit sketchy, just simply because in my streamer, I've got a Elgato capture card which has got 4 HDMI ports on it, and in future when I get that set up, because the streamer, I did mention a few weeks back, a couple of months back, that I'm going to actually put it into another case. And when I put it into the other case, I'll be putting that Elgato capture card into it, and that will enable me to capture what's happening on the PC that I'm working on. So like in this, where you seeing that a monitor over there, which you can't see anything because the glare of the monitor reflects into the camera, so it actually nullifies it. You'll be actually seeing it as if though you were looking at the PC itself. Yeah, you were actually on the PC. So hopefully that'll be up and running, but that won't happen until I change out my streaming into a new case. I don't know what I'm going to do with this case. Now, I do have another one of these systems. This is a client, but we'll have another one of these systems. Different case, of course, not this case. I think it's an A1. It's an A1 gaming case. The next case I'm going to be using. Exactly the same motherboard, exactly the same processor, exactly the same RAM. Yeah, exactly the same RAM. I think. Let me just double check. Yeah, the RAM is and that will be for sale. Exactly the same power supply. It's exactly the same except for maybe the M.2. Might put a Samsung Evo on that one. And it won't be, and it will not be coming with a Wi-Fi card, unless anybody who wants to buy it requests one. But obviously they'll have to add that to the price. So this is my client's PC now ready. So this is now to replace that HP that died. So if you haven't seen that video, go and have a look at it, guys. Please subscribe to the channel. Please give a like. Practice makes perfect. I'm still getting my head around OBS and YouTube, because basically what happens is you press go live in OBS, but it's actually connected to my YouTube, and it then supposed to communicate with YouTube and tell YouTube, oh, he's going live, and then go live. But I'm finding that I'm having to go into YouTube and then say go live as well. But then what's happening is they're both not communicating with each other. It's like they're counteracting each other, because they're saying, well, which one of you is going live, YouTube or OBS? And eventually it connects, but sometimes I have to sort of like go through the configuration again. So actually going live at a time, it can be quite frustrating, because you click go live. I mean, this afternoon I actually went live 15 minutes before it actually started, and it still didn't start on time. I had to go through the whole configuration again. So OBS has just been a bit problematic. Well, not OBS, YouTube, just been a bit problematic in its streaming. So I do apologise for some of the stream delays. I'm still trying to work my way around it. I'm not on the sort of like paid account of YouTube. You know, YouTube, they have a subscription where you can pay subscription monthly. Well, my channel's not big enough for that yet. Until it gets bigger, it's like a free one. But obviously, you'll put the bottom of the list when it comes to going live and that, because they want people only with subscriptions that subscribe. But never mind, we'll work through it. Anyway, that's it. The system's now more or less complete, except wait for that fan. That fan should be here Tuesday, and once that's here, I'll drop that in, and then I'll drop the system round to the client. But for all intents and purposes now, this is more or less ready. The only thing I've got to do now is I'm going to activate Windows, but like I say, I'm not going to do that on screen, for obvious reason. I know what some of you guys are like. Okay, so that's it. I'm out, and until the next time, I'll see you.